welcome back to my channel. It's time for the third video in my series of Amazing Readathon TAR wrap-up videos. So that you guys don't have to agonize your way through, it would be agony, I don't know, all of my books in one video. Because when you add up all the books I finished during the Amazing Readathon, the number of books I finished enough to count. And that's going to be a thing for this video that wasn't for the previous two. I didn't DNF any books that were straight up DNFs. But I did have books near the end that I finished enough to count them for sightseeing, but they were not 100% finished. Which means I have stragglers I have to finish in July. Being me, it's going to bug me until they're done. So I do have some books that are not going to be able to count for the July readathon because they were over 50% done already before July started. And I just need to finish them. So, yeah, this is the third portion of my June wrap-up, going from leg 8 of the Amazing Readathon through to the end. So 8, 9, and 10, and then closing comments and stuff. So if you haven't seen the previous two videos, this will make a lot more sense if you check out those first. I'll put the link in the description, hopefully before this goes up, but definitely it'll be in there eventually. Yes. I think I totally forgot about putting a link in the previous video, and I don't have links for all of them till they're all done, so it'll be there eventually. But yeah, watching them in order, it'll make a lot more sense. Because this is part 3, starting on leg 8, so all the previous legs are in the other two videos. Along with what the heck we were doing, how it worked, all that fun stuff. It was a complicated event, so this is not one where you listen to the rules once and you know how to play the game right off the bat. You just kind of had to dive in and figure it out. And it did make sense fairly quickly. The videos that kind of lead you along with what to do next were really clear, and yeah. But it was complicated and thus hard to explain afterwards as well. But at the end of leg 7, prompt dropped and we were on our way to Bangkok. So for Bangkok, the prompt was the colors of the Olympic rings. So the book that we read needed to have all the 5 colors of the Olympic rings on the front cover. The front cover specifically because there were some books that people wanted to use that the colors were only complete if they could include the back cover, and so front cover. For this one, I wanted to do a Michael Moorcock omnibus that had all the right colors on it. And I got through the first quarter or so of the book, and it was a quartet in one book. So I finished one of the books, basically. And I just wasn't feeling it. So I will probably finish the rest of that book this year for a different readathon, maybe even in July, because now that it's started, it's going to kind of be hanging over my head till I finish it. So it might actually be something I read this month and just be done with it and, check it off and send it on its way. I think it's even one that I got from one of my siblings, so it should be going back to said sibling sometime. But I originally was going to read that one because it starts out in Angkor Wat, which is in Cambodia, not too far from Thailand. So I was like, that would be perfect. Turns out that most of the book isn't set there. There is a little bit that happens in that setting. They do return there, but after the first, like, kind of before the first chapter segment, after that, they don't really go back to Southeast Asia for a long time. So it wasn't as perfect as I wanted it to be anyway. It would have been great if it was actually set in Cambodia for most of the book, or that would be perfect. But it wasn't. So I ended up switching to a different omnibus. Nice thing about the sci-fi fantasy genres, this one is actually another one of those crossovers, but it is sci-fi. They tend to have these painted covers where there's a lot of colors in them. So it had to have 5 colors. And it definitely has at least 5 colors. So it worked. I had several others that were also options, but this one in particular is 1,116 pages. There we go. It is, by the way, past 3 o'clock in the morning. I want to get this video done so I can move on. So, words, slightly more challenging at 3 o'clock in the morning. But yes, so this book is nice and fat and got me some nice points. I like that. It is by Marion Zimmer Bradley, and there's controversy about her. There's a lot of drama about her and how she treated her daughter, which I can sympathize with. And yeah, if what she was accused of is in fact what happened, then that's really bad. And it's a little awkward that it sounds as if the accusations didn't come out until after she was already dead, and so she didn't get to defend herself, and basically we're trying her in absentia in the court of public opinion rather than in any legal forum. So I'm kind of falling back to, I'm just a reader. I don't pay full price for books because I'm very poor and I get them used or free from, free shelves and things anyway. So my reading her books is not in any way giving her money. It is not my job to decide in their family drama who's the bad guy and what should be done about it. That's not my business. I'm reading a book. And there are a lot of people besides the author that make or don't make money based on the book once it's gone through a major publisher. So, yeah. I'm just reading the book, and there are a lot of authors that have done terrible things that we don't make a big drama about. And some of the classic authors that we were required to read for school were terrible people, and we don't make a big drama about it. We still read their books. We just know that they were terrible people and we wouldn't like them in real life. That's great. But for some authors, their personal dramas and their crimes against people in their lives, or whatever it is that they've done, kind of take over, and all of a sudden we don't read them anymore. I guess maybe that's what we call cancel culture. That's one of those terms that is definitely not something my generation came up with. And I think that may be what it's kind of referring to. I don't know. But it's not something that I grew up with as the way we do things. So, in any case, I am aware of the drama surrounding Marion Zimmer Bradley. if that kind of thing bugs you with an author, you don't have to read it. Same as with J.K. Rowling. A lot of people don't like things that she's said or things that she's done, and refuse to read or promote anything to do with J.K. Rowling. That's totally up to you. If I'm going to have that kind of rule for these authors, who are conveniently both women, by the way, I need to keep that same standard for every author I read, and I'm not going to finish most of the classics and most of the lists because a lot of those people really don't hold up to modern standards of morality. So, yeah. Anyway, so nice little tangent, but it did come up in our chat in the sci-fi team, and it's come up every time any books by this author come up. So just want to throw that out there. That's where I stand on it. I'm not saying that I think that what she did or has alleged to have done was good. It's not my business. I don't think I should even know most of that. It's drama that should be either in a courtroom or within the family. It is not my business as a reader to know that kind of stuff. So there's that. Anyway, it was actually a pretty good book. It's an omnibus edition, the Saga of the Renunciates. So it's actually 3 novels in one, which is how we get such a nice long book. This series reads as kind of Regency fantasy, except not. Because, and this book gets into a lot of the why it's actually sci-fi. The very first book in the Darkover series, this is the Darkover series, a colony spaceship, or spaceship full of colonists, crash lands on a planet that's outside of where they were supposed to be going, after they get caught up in a space storm, basically. Get blown off course, crash land on a planet, and they're stuck. And out of this seed population of colonists, as they interact with the people that are native to this planet, we end up with a society that peoples the rest of the books in this series. And every so often, the world outside of this planet intrudes on this planet's society. And in this book, that has happened. 2 people from Terra have arrived and are incognito. They are in some way involved with deals for establishing and maintaining a spaceport on this planet, because there's navigational value to having a spaceport in this location, and there's resources they might want as well. And obviously the people outside this planet think that this planet's pretty backward. They're not very technological, in part because the planet is very metal poor. So a lot of the technology that everybody else is used to requires lots of metals, which has held this planet back for a long time. Anyway, so if you jumped into this series out of order, you might have missed the part about the interplanetary travel and all that. And it might feel like a very decidedly fantasy series all the way through. In this book, though, we really get into that multi-planet system and kind of a contrast between the people from outer space and the people from this planet that vaguely, if at all, know that all this is happening. So, anyway. So I enjoy this series well enough. I probably don't need to reread it. It's not a series that I'm going to reread over and over again, but they're fun. And and that got me through the city prompt to get me to Bangkok. And I did fly, obviously, because why not? So that got me 2,232 points, plus 50 points because of sci-fi. That was nice. And then I did some sightseeing. I did a lot more audio and ebooks for the rest of this readathon. I was starting to get things ready for new kittens, and so I was doing a lot more that wasn't print books, for very good reasons. I finished one graphic biography in an arc from NetGalley called Between Two Sounds. It's a biography on Arvo Part, yes. This is probably the least text of anything I've read, but it was a 200 plus page graphic biography, and the kind of graphic biography where the illustrations are not just for pretty. They are meant to be interpreted as part of telling the story, and so it actually took a long time for what it was to finish it. And that one was for a 100-point prompt, a book released in 2024. It has not come out yet, but it was really good. It's by Junice Sildry. So highly recommend it. It should be coming out this autumn, I think. September? I don't remember. Anyway, it'll be in the description. I finished West of Honor by Jerry Pournelle, which I have in print, but did as an audiobook. And that was for a book with a map. So my copy, being in print, somewhere in here, has a map. There we go. There we go. It's a map. So I was going to do it for a different prompt, and I saw the map, and I'm like, oh, that's for that prompt then. Because there aren't as many books in sci-fi that have maps. That's really more of a fantasy thing. But this one's military sci-fi and involves a campaign for which the map was important. And that was for 200 points. I also finished This Immortal, which was the debut novel for Roger Zelazny. So that one was an audiobook. I looked up Zelazny, found out which one of his books was his debut novel, and then found that. So that was fun. Not his best book, but you can kind of see his style as it was developing. I did re-listen to Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone for bedtime reading. And I did that actually over a couple nights and finished it during leg 8. So I counted it for sightseeing finally in leg 8 for a book set in a school setting. Obviously not sci-fi, just it was a school setting. I'm pretty sure I have sci-fi set in schools that I could have used, but I couldn't think of any that I wanted to read right off. So that one was pretty obvious, and I finished it at just the right time. So, yay. And then I finished King Solomon's Mines. For a special edition. Whee! So again, it's not like the special editions that are currently popular, but it is a special edition. It's leather bound. It's one of those books that you order the books through some subscription. It's just what people used to do back in the day. So they're differently special, but it is very shiny and pretty. I was kicking myself in a way that I didn't do Hitchhiker's Guide for this, although it would have been awkward for points. It's one of my fanciest books on my shelf. This was a gift way back in undergrad from a friend. This is my Hitchhiker's Guide. It's got gilt edges. It's fancy. And it has all 5 books. So I had thought about using that for special edition till I realized that the Hitchhiker's Guide series was valuable as host favorites, and I wouldn't want to use that book all as one thing for one prompt. So I had it on my stack, but I did audiobooks for those, but just wanted to show it off. My very pretty book. And I don't think I've ever actually read all the way through all the pages on this one because I don't want to crack the spine too bad. It's just too pretty. Then I finished enough of Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I think I stopped at about 75% on that one. And then I got distracted and just wasn't feeling it. I really enjoyed this book, but I didn't want to push myself through it because I was enjoying it. So I counted it when I got it over. Well, I was going to count it when I got it over 51% because that's how far you have to go before you can DNF. But I read a little further along because I was enjoying it, and then I wasn't, and yeah. So I actually just finished the last chapter of Scythe literally tonight. So it's finally actually done. Doesn't help me at all with the July readathons, but it is done. And this was one of my favorites from Tar, from the Amazing Readathon. It was fun. This one was for a book that Bree gave 5 stars for that prompt. And it was deserving of the 5 stars. I enjoyed it. I will be looking for the second book and probably putting it on hold for July. So hopefully in one of my updates this month, you'll hear what I think of the second book. And I'll probably talk more about the first book when I do the second book. So this will not be the only time that I talk about this series. And then I also finished Master of the Revels by Nicole Garland as an audiobook. This is the second book in the series that starts with The Rise and Fall of Dodo by Neil Stevenson. So both books are kind of co-authored, but the main author for the first one is listed as Neil Stevenson, the second one is Nicole Garland. And she does more historical fiction as her primary genre, which makes sense then for why she's involved in this project, because there's a lot of historical fiction stuff in these books. So yeah, Master of the Revels was really good. It involves Shakespeare, and one group is trying to change the future and the other is trying to put it back, basically. And it all centers around a Shakespearean play and how it is portrayed, and witches. So that was fun. But it's still time travel, how time travel works, what happens if you do this, that, and the other within the mechanistic approach to time travel. As opposed to that time traveling fashionista again, where time travel was done with a magic dress. This is very much the opposite. There's machines involved, there's technologies involved. They make some attempt at explaining how the physics even works. Whether or not it actually could work that way, unless you're a physicist, it could work like that, sure. So that was the end of my leg 8. Leg 9, we were on our way to Auckland, New Zealand, which I would love to visit sometime. It looks so pretty. So for this one, we needed a book with water on the cover. So I figured, I had so much fun with The Rise and Fall of Dodo. I should try another book by the same author, right? So I did. Neil Stephenson, Termination Shock. This was the closest to DNFing a book that I got in the Amazing Readathon. I didn't, because this is for a city prompt and I wanted all the pages so that I could get all the points. So I suffered through all 706 pages of this stupid book. Yeah. I did not enjoy this book at all. It was poorly paced, poorly thought out. I'm not sure there was a cohesive plot in the whole novel. There probably was, but it wasn't really apparent, and certainly was not something that caught my attention long enough to sustain my interest through the book. Oh, it was such a slog. So it was disappointing, but the cover at least is very much water. It's a breaking wave. It's all water. Climate fiction. Very boring. Don't recommend. But it's over, and I got points for it. So that's all that matters. And I did fly because I had enough travel bucks, enough GRC saved up to fly for the last 2 legs. So I did. Oh, and yes, I mentioned in the previous video that we lost, Sci-Fi Team lost leg 7. Well, we came in 4th. So I guess there were more teams that also lost, because 4th is not last place. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we got a penalty from leg 7 because we came in at the bottom. So leg 8, we had to have a book that was an even number of pages, I think was the penalty, in addition to meeting the prompt. That was the other reason I didn't do the Michael Moorcock series, because with the appendices it was odd numbered. So I needed something that was straightforwardly even numbered. So anyway, just a little aside, that was part of leg 8. Anyway, leg 9, Termination Shock, done. Not reading it again. Don't recommend it. And then I did some sightseeing. I didn't finish too many sightseeings in leg 9. It wasn't a very long leg. And it took me so long to get through my stupid city prompt book. But I did finish Invaders from the Infinite by John W. Campbell. This is the one, I believe, that has the hero that goes off in a spaceship to Venus for a kind of a last-ditch effort to save humanity from the robots. And his mission commander guy back on Earth has stocked him up with a whole bunch of injectable uranium salts so that he can protect himself from cosmic radiation. This is one of those books with old science that doesn't work like that. So I've been chuckling about that detail ever since. That he was wondering if his weird dreams were maybe caused by the injectable uranium salts, and I'm sitting here like, yeah, definitely. It might do that, and a few other things. So that was amusing. I also finished The Mercenary by Jerry Pournelle. This is another military sci-fi. I liked this one a bit better than West of Honor. They're both kind of the same kind of military adventure, guys that are going in and upholding an honorable set of values in trying circumstances. And there are actually some strong female characters actually in The Mercenary. The rebel group that the mercenaries are interacting with is run by a woman. That was surprising, because this is not a modern sci-fi. It's classic sci-fi at this point. So yeah, there are some strong female characters. So that was nice. So yeah, the Invaders from the Infinite was for a plane or car on cover. And where did I put it? It has a helicopter on the cover. Anyway. So it must have been this one that had the map. No? I got myself all confused. Anyway, one of them was for a map, one of them was for a vehicle, and one of them was for having a weapon on the cover. That one was this one, because he's got weapons. Anyway, totally, yeah. It made total sense, and I don't know if I'm awake enough to explain it now. They worked out. Yeah. And then City at World's End by Edmund Hamilton for a book that takes place in a different country from where you live. In this one, a city is bumped forward in time a lot to Earth when there's really no life left on the planet. And there's people from another planet that show up and are going to try and evacuate this city's worth of people to another planet, and they're being like spoiled kids, like, no, we're not going to go, because they don't want to be evacuated from their home. Like, you're living on a planet that has no chance of sustaining your life. Why not be relocated to a planet that's no longer a dying world because you're on a planet that's a dying world because it's that old? Anyway, I was not on the side of these city people. They were being idiots and spoiled and just, yeah. But it was an interesting premise and a fun book. And then I finished Bastille versus the Evil Librarians. This one was for a 500-point prompt for one of the ones I'd already done before, and I was starting over. And beyond that, I did not write it down. It will be in the description, but this gets me to my accomplishment for the month. So at this point, I was not really concerned about whether we were going to win. We didn't, by the way. We came in fourth. So we didn't lose, but we didn't win. We came in fourth. The point spread was tiny between the winning team and the losing team. I think Bree said there was about 1,000 points difference between the winning team, which was General Fiction, which is great because they were the other small team. They won. Fantastic. And the losing team, Fantasy, which was one of the biggest teams in the game. So yeah, it was a very tight competition this year. But I was aiming at this point by leg 9 for finishing as many sightseeing prompts as I could. So I finished all the sightseeing prompts and then got to start over and do them again. And in order to start over, you had to do literally all of them, which is why I made sure to have one for each prompt, even the ones that I might otherwise have skipped, so that I could check them all off and start over fresh. And then I actually did make it through all of the 500 level prompts again, plus 3 additional prompts. So leg 10 dropped before I got more than a couple sightseeing actually done, but I had a lot of books that were already underway. So in leg 10, which was several days worth of reading, and we knew the end was in sight, I basically just didn't sleep, treated it like another phase-off weekend, and finished as many as I could. And I learned a bit more about lining up a lot of short things so that I could finish a lot very quickly. By next year, I'll be a pro at this. But the prompt book was a movie adaptation that you want to exist. So it has to be something that doesn't already exist in a movie adaptation. So I actually went with modern classic short novels of science fiction, edited by Gardner Dozois. This is a different collection from this one, which is short stories. So the one I did for the LA prompt is actually a novella, a short novel collection. They're both not very long. They're both in the 600 to 700 page range. So as far as points for page count, it wasn't the longest book I could imagine. But at this point I was going for sightseeing as well, and I didn't want to use up all my time on one long book. So I was imagining with these 2 books together that you do kind of like the Nero Wolfe style production where you have the same actors from one episode to the next, and they just shuffle roles as needed to cover all of them. Kind of like a player's troupe where you do all the different plays with all the same people. So I liked that idea. I actually would love to see modern actors do something like that, because it is a different approach from casting each character totally different. So if you haven't seen that before, watch Nero Wolfe episodes. They're on YouTube, or at least they have been. And just see how they do that, because the same actors prop up, but they'll put on a different accent, different clothes, different personality, and they're a different person. It's so much fun. So yeah, I finished both collections for leg 10. This one was my 500 page book for doing it all over again. And the Nicole Gardner book was for the 500 page book for the previous round. So those were fun. I also did This Crowded Earth by Robert Bloch for third person POV. That was for 400 point prompt. And Planet of Dread for a book that takes place in a different country from where you're at. It's actually a different planet. Happens a lot in sci-fi. That one was easy. That one's by Murray Leinster. Sand Doom by Murray Leinster, a novella, for 100 points. Might have put that one down for novella. That would be my guess. But for a 100 point prompt. And then I did Rebels of the Red Planet, which was twisted and bizarre and kind of fun, for 5 words in the title. The Last Continent by Terry Pratchett for a book with footnotes. The Grey King for a 4th book in the series by Susan Cooper. Sea Road by Ursula K. Le Guin for a book with all 5 vowels on the cover. The Toynbee Convector by Ray Bradbury for a book with foiling. Again, look at that shiny foil. It's foiling and it's embossed. I did Malice by Heather Walter for a book that Bree gave 5 stars. This one I almost DNF'd earlier in the month, and I didn't return it because I wasn't completely sure that I wanted to just give up on it. Turns out I liked it better than I thought. It's still YA first person, and oh my gosh, that drives me nuts unless it's really well done. So the first couple chapters almost lost me, but it ended up being pretty good, about 4 stars. It is also kind of a retelling, but I didn't want to use it for that. Because the books Bree gave 5 stars was 500 points, and a retelling was not. So, and here's the Grey King by Susan Cooper. And this one I had like 5 pages left when the readathon ended, so it was well over 50% when the event was over, so it counted. And I did have a few books and I still have, I think, 20 pages in Malice. And the last short story in the short story collection, not the novella collection. I had to do all the pages for the novella collection, because that was for the page count, city prompt. But for the short story collection, it had to be over 51%. And it was like 90%, something like that. So that worked. And I think I have like 30 pages in the Toynbee Convector left. So I still have some wrapping up to do for some of these books. Mopping up the last few chapters, the last few pages. I won't be done until I finish all of those, and none of those help for the July readathon. But I got them all past where they could count. All definitely way past 51%. So, yay, that worked. And let's see. I also finished Armageddon 2419 AD as an audiobook for a book published before 2001. And After World's End by Jack Williamson for a book with less than 1,000 ratings. That one was a not very memorable, just hard sci-fi. I think that one was probably one of the lower ratings I gave to you for those classic sci-fis, so 3.5 to 4 stars. And that, I think, closed off my readathon. Yeah, so that was my event. Lots of classic sci-fi, lots of audiobooks, several ebooks, especially because I did a lot of NetGalley arcs. Those are ebooks. I haven't done any NetGalley audio yet. So it was a good event. I made it through quite a few NetGalley books that I had hoped to prioritize, so that was excellent. Not as many as I might have hoped, but enough that my percentage is not abysmal, which is good. I'm still getting approved for nice books, So as long as that keeps happening, I'm happy. And by the end of the week, I will have wrapped up all the books that were stragglers from last month. It's a little annoying having so many that weren't totally finished, because it means that I'm using up reading time the first week of this readathon, reading books that cannot count for this readathon. Right. But yeah, it was a fun event. I definitely improved my strategy as I went along. This was way more intensely competitive than any of the other readathons I've participated in so far, although Escape the Readathon was good practice, but still was not as intense as this readathon. It was close. But just the numbers alone, I finished over 80 books in June. I think my count was 83 when I was tallying them up for chatting on our group. But I hadn't really counted up all of my face-off books very accurately. I think it was more like 85 or 86. So that is a ton for 1 month, even with a lot of those being short. Considering that a lot of people are reading short books more regularly than I usually do, yeah, I still finished well over 80 books in 1 month. And quite a few of the books I finished were long. 3 of the books I finished were over 1,000 pages long. So, yeah, it was quite a month. I am still reading. I've slowed down quite a bit. Aside from finishing off books that were not quite done at the end of June, I've finished 1 whole book so far that I started in July. I finished Children of Dune by Frank Herbert, which is book 3 in that series. Has magic in it, so it counts for the prompt that I'm working towards in our tarot readathon, and also works for the first card I pulled. So that was nice. And I'm definitely starting to shift gears to focusing on the tarot readathon. I'm not familiar with tarot very well, so there's a learning curve in this, just getting used to the terminology. And so by the end of the week, I will be probably fully immersed in that. I know some of the people in my team that came over from the Amazing Readathon, but I think most of the people in sci-fi joined other teams for tarot. So we'll see how it goes. I am not getting the same vibes from my team yet as I did in sci-fi, but I think that's just par for the course. Our sci-fi chat in our Amazing Readathon team was very nice. We did not have a lot of the drama that we heard about from other teams. Everybody was really supportive. Got really great recommendations whenever people needed recommendations. I got some great ones. Runtime was one that people told me about when I was looking for sci-fi that had sports in it. That one turned out to be an excellent recommendation. And yeah, next month for August, there's another readathon that has a team that's got kind of a sci-fi-esque theme to it, and several of us might be in the same team for that, so that'll be nice. So I don't know if we're gonna have the same sort of camaraderie in my current team. I'm in the team cups for tarot, and I think I do know a couple other people that are, former teammates from other teams in this one. But I think everybody's so burned out that we're not really clicking yet anyway. We'll see how it goes. It's early days. I'll probably start to feel more a part of the team as we go along. But yeah, anyway, that was my readathon. Hopefully you guys had an excellent experience in June as well. And I will let this video wrap up so that we don't get into a whole hour for just wrapping up this one segment. Yeah, and I will do a video pretty shortly on the first week of July. It is getting in towards the 3rd now. So a couple days I'll be wrapping up the first week of July, and that will probably be my next video. I might do a TBR video between now and then as well, talking about my first 9 cards that I pulled for the Tarot Readathon, that are my first TBR stack for the month. But if I don't, it'll just be the weekly wrap up and go from there. So I will catch you guys in the next video. I am starting to watch some BookTube videos, so I might be commenting on stuff in the next couple days. And yeah, I'll see you guys in sprints or wherever, somewhere in the BookTubes. Talk to you later, guys. Bye!